teeth. Teeth. See the correlation? This is my most recent rare find, and I like it quite a bit. I've always enjoyed this album. You know, it's not of divine quality like The Fragile or anything that came before it, but it's pretty cool. Okay, so here's the whole artwork, what it looks like, and I always really liked this picture of Trent, like on the inner artwork of the album. And here, it looks even bigger and with a higher resolution than it does on the CD. And this is obvious because it's made of a slightly different cardboard. You know, the cardboard on the CD kind of has a scratchy feel, I don't know what you call that, but here it's a little more, smooth. Anyway, so the vinyl itself is not 180 grams, it feels like 140. But it sounds really good, there's hardly any noise. Just like with Year Zero, there was already dynamic range on the CD, but there's even more of it on the vinyl. Same thing with Teeth. With Nine Inch Nails, I always notice new things every time I hear them anyway, but on the vinyl versions, that's definitely the case. For instance, the song The Line Begins to Blur, I didn't really notice the static sounds every few seconds. Now, the biggest difference in the sound, I think, is the drums. Like, the way All the Love in the World started off with the bass drum, you know, it just sounded a little richer, sounded a little deeper. And the same thing with the beginning of Only, the beginning of Sunspots. The drums are just, you know, they're more full, they're more bassy. But then you get to songs like You Know What You Are. The way it kicks in with that snare drum sound, it'll make you want to jump across the room. And then, of course, you got the drums and getting smaller. Already a hard hitter, but it hits even harder. There's definitely a difference in impact as far as how the music's concerned. The crispness of the drums, the fullness of the drums, the difference in the dynamic range compared to the CD, that's what really adds to this experience. But also it sounds like Trent's voice has more presence on this release. Now, I have to address this. On the United States release, it only has 13 songs. On the Japanese release, there's an alternate version of Right Where It Belongs, and there's an extra song that didn't make it on the album. It's called Home. This song appears on the vinyl. I can kind of understand why Trent left it off the album, because it seems to me like it's the least layered of all the songs on the album. But it's an interesting song. It is going to take a little time for me to get used to listening to Home after Sunspots, because I'm so used to hearing that hard approach from Line Begins to Blur. But what's cool about Home is that it's really drum-oriented. So if you really like the drum sounds in songs like Eraser, then you're going to like the drum sounds in this song. Now, as far as the album itself, I personally think that it's the best of anything past The Fragile. You know, it has a lot of songs on here that I really like. Like Sunspots is a really underrated song. But I also enjoy the songs like Every Day's Exactly the Same and the title track. Real fun stuff. But also this album isn't as angry as his earlier albums, but that's not a bad thing because the songwriting is still strong. And plus, I think Nine Inch Nails always had that kind of depressing undercurrent throughout their music. So, I mean, you still feel like you're listening to a Nine Inch Nails album. I've listened to this album so many times, I have the release date memorized in my head. May 3rd, 2005. So every time May 3rd comes around, I listen to this album. My aunt got married a few years ago on May the 3rd. I woke up that morning thinking, oh, yeah, she's getting married. I gotta listen to that album. Now, for some reason, I linked this album with Queens of the Stone Age Lullabies to Paralyze and Annihilation of the Wicked by Nile, because these albums all came out in 2005. You ever have those albums where, you know, they mean so much to you that you associate them with random things that probably shouldn't be associated with them? It's just like the Downward Spiral. When I think of the year 1994, I think, Downward Spiral, Donkey Kong Country, Natural Born Killers. Or, I mean, you might listen to an album and you'll think of a party you went to where the album was played. Or you might think of a movie where the song at the end of the credits of the movie was played from the album. So was it worth spending all this money on With Teeth? Absolutely. Thank you for watching.